Hello everybody, how you going? Just R here, no J. I just thought I'd quickly put something together because we're working on some larger videos lately, so it's just delaying our upload schedule. So today I'm going to be doing another quiz, so I'll be filling in this 8 values quiz. This is the first time I've seen it, so you'll be getting my genuine reaction to it. So let's find out if I'm a dirty communist. Yep, whatever, it's fine. Okay, oppression by corporations is more of a concern than oppression by governments. That's actually a really tough one. But I think oppression, usually I don't think corporations are going to have many avenues for committing violence for their oppression, because that'll be managed by the government, whereas the government has the ability to jail you. I guess private corporations can jail you by suing you, but that's through government mechanisms. So I think it's more of a concern when conducted by the government, but that isn't to say what corporations can do has no impact. So I'll agree, not strongly agree. It is necessary for the government to intervene in the economy to protect consumers. I agree. I think they have to. I think we need basic rules implemented by the government, because things like return policies and regulation of certain industries, especially making sure that people don't commit false advertising. Honestly, I think things like the supplement industry should have more regulation. You should have to actually have data to back up what your supplement is saying. And you also should have to demonstrate that your supplement contains what it actually claims to contain, which a lot of them don't. So I think it is important, but too much of it will cause serious problems. You need to get a balance. Okay, the freer the markets, the freer the people. Well, they're freer. They're not necessarily better off. Like, if you have complete, absolute free markets when it comes to healthcare, I think that almost definitely won't result in the best outcome for the people. And as the best outcome, like freer, I think you'll be freer because you won't be paying taxes. You won't be forced into certain things like single-payer healthcare systems. But I don't necessarily believe most people would be better off. But either way, I guess I'll agree. It is better to maintain a balanced budget than to ensure welfare for all citizens. No, I don't really agree. I think the economy exists to serve the people, and not the people serve to exist the economy. So I think the welfare of the people should be the number one priority. Obviously, if you just milk the economy to the point it can't handle anymore, it's going to collapse, and that's going to cause more suffering than milking the economy would generate in well-being. But I think it's not. If you have a small deficit and you're generating that for growth in GDP and programs which people are using, and it's bringing increasing people's well-being, I'm not necessarily opposed to that. So I think I'll agree. Oh, this is my home ground. Publicly funded research is more beneficial to people than leaving it to the market. So the correct answer here is yes. And I think this goes beyond the factor of just opinion, because research is an extremely wide topic. But what we do have research, they conduct something called blue skies research, which is essentially doing research for the sake of gaining knowledge. And it's not necessarily to a certain outcome. So you're not necessarily creating something that's marketable. Sometimes you're just investigating for the sake of investigating. Now, that investigation can lead to findings that lead to great breakthroughs, but you wouldn't know that it's going to lead to a great breakthrough before. Now, the private sector, when it goes for research funding, almost always wants some direct application to what you're doing. So typically what we find is the applied research using private funding takes information that already exists and finds ways to apply it and make it marketable. So they're taking this blue skies research and then utilizing what it finds. So at bare minimum, we need that blue skies research, and the private sector isn't going to fund it, or isn't going to fund enough of it. And publicly funded research will also do this application. So we'll find applications for research. They're probably not as good at it as the research that's privately funded, because privately funded, it's you know what, if publicly funded had more money, it probably would be the same outcome. But you know what, strongly agree. Okay, international trade is beneficial. Yeah, why not? From each according to his ability to each according to his needs. Is that communist? I'm pretty sure Karl Marx said that. I am just going to double check that I'm not about to go, hey, communism's great. Who was this? Wait, Obama said this? Oh, Karl Marx. Yes, Karl Marx said it. Damn you, Karl Marx. God damn it, Karl Marx. Look, I kind of agree with this, but I don't agree with what. I'm not a communist, guys. I'm not a fucking communist. But from each according to his ability to each according to his needs. I do think, for example, I think as you earn more, you should pay a greater tax rate. I think if you're on the poverty line, you probably shouldn't be paying, like, you don't need to be bleeding those people for equal amounts of tax. I think a flat tax disproportionately favors the wealthy. But, and I think, for example, things like disability payments, I agree that disabled people should have support. And I don't think it should be purely private charity or their families having to look after them. I think it works much better when it's managed by a governing body. I'm going to click agree. God damn it. God damn it, Karl Marx. Fuck you so much. It would be best if social programs were abolished in favor of private charity. Hold on one second. I had to blow my nose. Gross. Okay. No, this is kind of stupid because you can't rely on private charity. The vast majority of people aren't going to be you don't have guarantees of charity. Like, maybe some people would, maybe some people wouldn't. Maybe there'd be enough, maybe there wouldn't. It's not stable. And the efficacy of private... Actually, no, I was about to complain about the efficacy of private charities, but I would say government efficiency isn't particularly higher, depending on what charity. But then as well, private charity is going to be to certain very specific... So you're going to donate to paraplegics.org or something like that. What you might get is some specific people who are just slipping through the cracks as well. Even if you create a society which is wanting to give to charity, when you get random sampling, because people aren't likely to give to every charity, they're going to give to specific charities that matter to them. And then you're going to wind up with some that get a disproportionate amount of money and some that don't have nearly enough to fulfill their needs. I think social programs are important in conjunction with private charity. So, no, strongly disagree. Taxes should be increased on the rich to provide for the poor. I guess it depends. The rich should pay higher taxes than the middle class and the poor, but increased implies they're too low now. I'm not sure if they're too low now. I'm pretty sure, at least in Australia, it can get as high as 52 cents to every dollar, which seems like it's fine. But I think it's talking about it in a general sense, so that the rich should be taxed to provide for the poor. I think so. God damn, I'm such a communist. No, I think they should, but it shouldn't just be taking from the rich and just giving to the poor. We want to create programs that help people find work. We don't want to just have we don't want to have a welfare system that just basically gives out blank checks. We want to have a system that encourages people to work. For example, in Australia, you have a program called Job Seekers. There's no actual straight up dole in Australia. You apply for this thing called Job Seekers, and basically you don't get your payments unless you apply for a certain amount of jobs. Now, granted, there's definitely ways around it. Apply for jobs you're not qualified to, apply to jobs and turn up and tank the interviews. There's a number of them, but it's better than a system which just goes, oh, you're unemployed, here, have some money. Try find a job, mate. So, you know, I've talked about this way too much. Taxes should be increased on the rich to provide for the poor. I agree. Inheritance is a legitimate form of wealth. Yes? What do you mean legitimate form? If I inherit if I inherit wealth, it is wealth. Maybe I've misunderstood. Public utilities like electricity and roads should be publicly owned. Yes. Very much strongly agree. When we, for example, one of the things I've always liked about Australia is how well maintained the roads are, and that's all run by the government. And I've been to other countries where the infrastructure is just falling apart, and that's based on lower government fundings. And then you get things like toll roads. Man, a toll road, it just seems like a terrible idea. Electricity as well. We're having problems in Australia. Our electricity bills are flying off the absolute handle because, well, one of the things that comes through it is a lot of the electric companies were privatized, and then they just started price gouging people because you're not going to go, oh, I want to save money, so I'll use power less. Like, the things we do with power are so essential, and it's just such a habit that people have that you're not realistically going to go, you know what, I'm not going to watch TV. I'm going to sit here and do nothing. It's just, yeah, publicly owned. Excessive government intervention is a threat to the economy. Here's the problem with that, though. They've defined it as excessive, which means it's too much by definition because it's excessive. So I have to put strongly agree because it means it's enough that the intervention is a threat. But I think I'm kind of overreading it. Spirit of the question is the government can intervene too much and threaten the economy. I agree. They definitely can. Those with greater ability to pay should receive better health care. Yeah. Like, if you got the money and you can go to some really fancy private surgeon, go ahead. There just needs to be a viable public option. Quality education is a right of all people. I do agree. Oh, actually do. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think people do have a right to education. I don't think people necessarily have a right to free education because, well, nothing's free because you pay taxes. But in terms of university, for example, I wouldn't be in favor of free university. I think that's something you undertake extra education as a benefit to yourself. You should have to pay for it. Now, in saying that, the fees should be regulated, and so you have regulated fees, and in Australia we have a thing called the HEC system, which is you pay your student loans to the government, and they have a really good interest rate, and you don't pay it back until you earn enough money. I think it's a good middle ground, but you know what? Right of all people, agree. Wow, I need to speed up. I'm going so slow. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to pick it up. The means of production should belong to the workers who use them. No, like if you own a company. If you pay for a factory, you own the factory. People who work there don't suddenly get ownership. I don't know if I misunderstood that, but strongly disagree. The United Nations should be abolished. I don't really care. I don't really think they achieve much anyway. Military action by our nation is often to protect it. Disagree. I support regional unions such as the European Union. Not really. I don't really care that much. But I think, for example, the euro is obviously a shitty idea. When you get a bunch of countries with different economies and you peg them all to a same currency, you wind up with Greece collapsing and going, hey, a good idea now would be to print more money, accept the inflation and spend on programs, and then Germany going, no, we don't need that. No, don't do that. So you know what? I don't support them really. It is important to maintain our national sovereignty. Yeah, I think it is, actually. I do. I think it's important for us to be able to maintain our national sovereignty and for nations to be able to maintain it within reason. If you're threatening people with nukes, obviously, you're probably going to end up voiding that at some point, but agree. Hold on one second. Okay, so a united world government would be beneficial to mankind. I don't know. Is the government good? Is the government the one Alex Jones is scared of? That really depends on the government. But I don't think so. I think the larger a government gets, the less responsive it gets to the people, especially because you're covering a wider range of people as well. I think having countries govern themselves, you wind up with them better tailoring themselves to their population. So I actually think it wouldn't be. I strongly disagree. It's more important to retain peaceful relations than further our strength. Well, yeah, strength is irrelevant if everybody's willing to maintain peace, but not everybody is willing to maintain peace. But I can't see why you can't do both. Build a military. Don't attack people. I don't know. Strongly agree. Wars do not need to be justified to other countries. No, I feel like if you can't justify your war to any other countries, it's probably not a good idea for a war. Military spending is a waste of money. No, too much military. I think the amount the US spends is a waste of money. I think the amount Australia spends is not a waste of money. You just it's balance. Everything's about balance. Everything's about balance. God, I'm such a communist. Communism. International aid is a waste of money. Not really, because first of all, it's just altruistic to help people. Second of all, probably more importantly, you're going to strengthen the economy, so you're going to allow the development of nations near you that are ultimately going to wind up as your trading partners. So I don't think it's a waste of money. My nation is great. Australia? Yeah, it's pretty good. That's all right. Yeah, you know what? Oh, which one do I click? I bet the government's watching me right now. Malcolm Turnbull. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna click agree because I don't think it's great for just the veracity of it being it. I like the cult. Oh, I can't explain it. Research should be conducted on an international scale. Yes and no. There should be international research. Well, there is international research. Like some of the research I've been doing right now, some of the papers I'm working on, we're working with some guys in Brazil. We just organized that ourselves. I think there should be the option to do it on an international scale, but it's not always beneficial. But I guess it didn't say should always. Government should be accountable to the international community. Yeah, I guess. Like North Korea probably shouldn't be threatening people with nukes. So, yeah, probably. Even when protesting an authoritarian government, violence is not acceptable. It really depends, though. Because say the government is attacking you and you're just defending yourself. If they're initiating violence first, oh man, that's really hard, actually, because I think violence is not, because I'm very anti-violence in terms of, ironic for someone who trains fighting, but I don't think you should be resorting to violence in situations, but I'm assuming when it says authoritarian, it means an actual authoritarian government, because you can't just walk out into the middle of, you can't be Antifa. You can't rock up to places and go, fuck Nazis, and just start punching people. Like, You're technically protesting an authoritarian government in this hypothetical Nazi government you've created, but it's not the government you're actually protesting against. But if we're in an actual authoritarian government, and say you live in literal Nazi Germany, and you start fighting back, God damn it. Even when protesting an authoritarian government, violence is not acceptable. Neutral. I bitched out, guys. I'm so sorry. My religious values should be spread as much as possible. Strongly disagree. Our nation's values should be spread as much as possible. I think they should be conveyed as much as possible. And if we can convince people that they're the correct way to go, then they'll agree. But if we can't, because I have no way of knowing that our value. Oh, you know what? I actually do. I think we can look at it objectively and see that the Western values probably yield a greater well-being to the people than Saudi Arabia does. That really isn't saying much. Let's say agree. God, I'm a nationalist now. It is very important to maintain law and order. Yeah, I agree. Mad Max looks shit. The general populace makes poor decisions. Let's just move on. Victimless crimes such as drug use should not be crimes at all. Yeah. I don't really care if people do drugs. I think if you do drugs and start... Yeah, I would probably... I don't do drugs, but I don't even smoke weed. But I think people should be able to. I don't see the point in criminalizing them. Seems like a waste of resources to even bother. Just legalize, tax, and regulate. The sacrifice of some civil liberties is necessary to protect us from acts of terrorism. I guess. Well, it depends how. It's kind of a trade-off. How much of a threat do you think terrorism is? Because when you put terrorism relative to other things, it's actually not as great a threat. So I think it's about making informed decisions. If you think terrorism is a serious enough threat and you're willing to sacrifice civil liberties, then that's up to the democratic process. I don't think government should be doing it against the will of the population. I think this is something that people should be deciding. But let's say to no, you know what, I'm breaking down the question too much to the point where I'm probably destroying the actual intention of the question. So the sacrifice of some civil liberties is necessary to protect us from acts of terrorism. Man, I wish I'd live stream this, then I could chat to people. I'm gonna say neutral, unsure. I bitched out. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm a dirty communist. Government surveillance is necessary in the modern world. Kinda, like, nah. I don't think it. It's actually on. I don't know. These questions are actually quite difficult. Am I only halfway? Oh, I am sorry to everyone. Is anybody even still listening? If you're still listening, congratulations. You clearly don't have anything better to be doing. Because I really can't be entertaining right now. Government surveillance is necessary in the modern world. It depends what. Depends what for. I think government surveillance is. It's within regulation again. Like, I'm not necessarily opposed to surveillance cameras placed in public areas. Like, you don't really have an expectation of privacy when you walk around in public areas. I think it may be best for preventing crimes and stuff, or maybe preventing, definitely prosecuting. So that's not necessarily a bad idea. Like, I'm happy that the train stations have security cameras in them because they're not particularly the safest place. But if the government wants to survey my internet history, because my internet history has some bad stuff in it. No, Malcolm Turnbull, if you're listening, please don't look at my internet history. I think moderation. You have to pick the right amount you're willing to give up for the amount of security. You could, if the government surveys absolutely everything, increase security out the window, but it's not worth the trade-off. But I think some government surveillance is important. The very existence of the state is a threat to our liberty. Not really. If there was no state, my liberty would likely be infringed by someone else. Like, if there was no state, it just makes me think of those anarcho-capitalist memes. Where's the McDonald's one? Hold on, I'm gonna find. You know what? This is gonna be the most entertaining part of the video because I used someone else's content. And okay, where is it? Wow. That's not it. Oh yeah, this is it. Here we go. Okay, so it's like this meme. When you accidentally say the phrase, "I'm loving it," so the McDonald's death squads capture you for not paying royalties and take you to private court, but you don't have enough bitcoins to pay off the jury, so you sell your children to the coal mines. Like, as much as it's an obvious exaggeration. I'm sure there wouldn't actually be McDonald's death squads, but it does outline a fact that without the state, you would allow for people to use force without any kind of... Because I've talked to complete anarchists before, and I've often asked about maintaining liberties, and people just kind of expect everybody to conduct themselves in a way that they respect the liberty of others. But as soon as someone starts a giant roaming gang, like, how are you supposed to stop them? And the answer I seem to hear most often is raise a posse up and fight them, which... That seems like a terrible idea. So I don't actually agree. I don't agree that it's inherently a threat to our liberty. Well, you know what? Actually, it's going to take some liberty, but I think it's going to give us a net positive compared to not having the state. So I'm going to disagree. Regardless of your political opinions, it is important to side with the country. Strongly disagree. I shouldn't just go against what I think is wrong purely because of nationalism. No authority should be left unquestioned. Hold on, I just want to check I answer this right. No authority should be left unquestioned. I agree. Yes, agree, definitely. A hierarchical... Why? Wow. Someone doing a PhD can't even say that word. You know what? I don't know, arranged in rank. Rank of what? I'm going to disagree. It is important that the government follows the majority opinion, even if it is wrong. Yeah, I actually have really conflicted feelings about this. It's really difficult because I do think the democratic process should be followed, but I think in some instances, say, if we have the science demonstrates that something is the way and people are misinformed, vaccines, for example, but then I really don't want to infringe on people's liberties. This is my communist ways versus my capitalist ways. I think in most instances, no, I think, you know what? The government, if you have elected representatives, they're elected to do what's best for you. Now, whilst I think they should respect the majority opinion, if it's something that's completely wrong, I don't think they should just follow that purely because of that. Disagree. The stronger the leadership, the better. Well, that's neutral and unsure because it depends on if you're a really strong leader, but you're Hitler, it's probably not great. If you're a really strong leader, but you're, I don't know, someone who's good. Wow, why can I not name a really good leader off the top of my head? Oh yeah, because currently he's a fucking shit. But yeah, no, strength isn't really. The strength could be for good or for bad. Democracy is more better. Sorry, democracy is more than a decision-making process. I guess. Environmental regulations are essential. Yeah, I strongly agree. A better world will come from automation, science, and technology. I agree. But I think there'll be some growing pains. Children should be educated in religious or traditional values. Kind of. Like, one of the best things I ever did in high school was, I did in the UK, was religious education. I remember that unit was probably where I developed my atheism, was because it goes, look at all these different religions, look at all, and basically it was every month we were doing a different religion. We visited the temples or synagogues or whatever for that specific religion, and we'd find out all about their history. And one of the things I remember thinking was, well, all of these things claim stuff that's completely contradictory. They have all these values that are they have all these values that conflict with each other. How do we know which one is right? None of these seem to actually, they all don't seem to have any real evidence for their points. And I ended up, that was what made me realize it was likely that at least organized religion in the way that it is total bullshit. So, but I don't really think that's I don't really think that's what the question is asking. I think it's asking that they should be taught it as though it's right. Because I really think I might be overthinking these questions. Disagree. Traditions are of no value on their own. Yeah. Religion should play a role in government. Get out of here. Churches should be taxed the same way. Yep. Go ahead. Climate change is currently one of the greatest threats to our way of life. I don't know. A lot of the models have overestimated its impact, and it's hard to know what its genuine impact is actually going to be. And currently, it's not currently. In 20 years, it's probably going to be. So I'm going to put agree, but, you know, hesitant to agree. It is important that we work as a united world to combat climate change. Yeah, I think we should look after the environment, even if climate change turns out to be fake. Which I'm not saying it's even a viable possibility, but say climate change turns out to be wrong. Even then, it still makes sense to try and just look after the environment for the sake of looking after the environment. Anyway, society was better many years ago than it is. So fuck that. No, it was not. It is important that we maintain the traditions of our past. I don't give a fuck about traditions. It is important that we think in the long term beyond our lifespans. Yeah, definitely. Reason is more important than maintaining our culture. Yep. Drugs should be legalized or decriminalized. Yeah. Same-sex marriage should be legal. Well, yeah. And there's either two approaches you can take to this. Approach one is that marriage... basically, if marriage is a government institution and affords people legal rights, same-sex couples should have access to it. That's easy. Now, I know there is a possibility that you could say, well, marriage shouldn't be a government institution at all, so same-sex marriage shouldn't be legal, but neither should marriage, which I think kind of perverts the intent of the question, because it's obviously not asking you should all marriage be illegal. So in the terms of accepting that marriage is a government institution as it is right now, yes, same-sex marriage should be legal. No cultures are superior to other. Well, I don't know. Saudi Arabia is not going great. Sex outside marriage is immoral. No, fuck that. Test drive before you buy, mate. If we accept migrants at all, it is important that they assimilate to our culture. I actually kind of do agree with this. I think if you emigrate to a different country, you should respect their culture going in. Not to say you should just assimilate and embrace it, but say we have refugees come over here from Syria, I believe we should make it very clear when they rock up, buddy, welcome to Australia. You've been given a great gift that you're here and you're not in that shithole that fucking is exploding everywhere. In this country, we are a secular nation. Your religion should not impact government decisions, and women have equal rights. These are the rules. This is what we believe. This is how we conduct our society. If you want that to change, you can try and change it through the democratic process, but you cannot just operate as you wish because it's your culture. So I do think that's important to operate within other cultures, and especially in terms of when I look at the refugee situation, I do have feelings of that way. So agree. Abortion shall be prohibited in most or all cases. Nah. We don't have the right to force a woman to carry a child to term or fetus, whatever the fuck, I don't really think it matters. Gun ownership should be prohibited for those without a valid reason. I actually agree, which is kind of weird for someone who loves weapons and owns swords and bows and arrows and stuff, but guns are just a whole different playing field. Like if I go to a cinemas with a sword, everybody's going to run. I might get a couple of people, and I may not even kill them. And if I go with a bow, man, I'm not Legalist. You can't draw real quick. You gotta but a gun is just sandbox mode. Like a gun is just OP. And I don't really think there is a particularly valid reason. So I will say, agree. I support single-payer universal healthcare. Yes, I do. I think universal healthcare is overall a net good. We actually find that these systems can even be cost-wise, more effective than systems like the US. They can give better outcomes to people. Look, at the end of the day, it's the outcomes that count. And we can get really good outcomes from this, and I think it's totally feasible if you conduct it correctly. So prostitution should be illegal. Nah, if you want to fuck someone for money, go ahead. Maintaining family values is essential. To families, yeah. But I guess, you know what, I guess. To chase progress at all costs is dangerous, yep. Genetic modification is a force for good. Yeah, it is. If you could genetically modify, say, a fetus which had Huntington's disease to no longer have Huntington's disease. Genetic modification has great potential, but also some ethical concerns which we'll need to approach as we go through it. But I do think overall it's going to be a force for good, definitely. We should open our borders to immigration. You shouldn't just have open borders. You should take in skilled workers and the amount of people that your economy can sustain and all that jazz. So disagree. Government should be as concerned about foreign citizens as they are about those within their own borders. Disagree. All people, regardless of factors like culture or sexuality, should be treated equally. Yes. Yeah, I guess. What? No. Mic out? Oh, sorry guys. I'm pretty sure I just knocked the mic out, but I think it's back, so I'll have to check this afterwards. Anyway, all people, regardless of factors like culture or sexuality, should be treated equally. It depends, because if your culture is fucking crazy, you should be treated equally in the eyes of the law of that culture, but you shouldn't be treated like, we should treat everybody kindly, but if someone's a fucking piece of shit who thinks that women should be trapped in bags and not be allowed to drive, you obviously then don't just treat them kindly. You have to, yeah, you know what, actually you kind of would treat them kindly and discreet. I think I'm perverting the intention of the question. I think it's just treated equally in the eyes of the law, so I'll agree. Last question. Until it tells me I'm a communist. It is important that we have. It is important that we further my group's goals above all others. No, not above all others. Here we go. Okay. Economic access. Social. I'm a dirty socialist. I'm such a communist. Diplomatic access balanced. So nation to world. Yeah, I think that accurately describes me. And I also think this social one does describe me. 62% to 37. Like, I'm not a communist. I joke about it. I'm definitely not a communist. I think we can find a balance between these two things. Civil access liberal. Yep, definitely. I do value liberty, but I do have a tinge of authoritarian. I do have a tinge of there has to be some authority, but I think we should use that authority to best aid people should have liberty, but there are going to be limits to that. Societal access, very progressive. Yeah, well, I don't give a fuck about tradition. Who cares? Closest match, social liberalism. Your ideological matching is a work in process and is much less... Oh, sorry. I thought it was going to give me a description of it. Okie dokie. So that is my results. So I'm a dirty capitalist. No, not capitalist. Freudian slip. A communist. So thank you guys for watching. We'll be releasing a video next 2 weeks, so that'll be all good. So if you guys do this quiz, I'll leave a link to it in the description. Let me know what you got. I'm really interested in hearing what some of you guys do. Actually, I'm really interested in seeing what our audience is like in regards to this. Because when we've done podcasts and things, I have seen some people strongly disagreeing with some of the things we've said. So I'm very open about these factors like this. I'm definitely open to discussion. I'm well aware these things are my opinion, and I think it's very hard to objectively know. Well, not objectively know, but to objectively know, to quantitatively know that these things are correct. So I think it's worth discussing. So let me know what you got. Thanks for watching if you made it this far. I'm sorry if this has been incredibly boring. I appreciate you guys. I love all of you guys. Make sure if you're not subscribed, welcome. Hey, I'm R. I'm great. I'm the best one. Jay's a piece of shit. Subscribe to this channel. Make sure to like this video and share it around to help us raise the bar of public discourse. Communism.